Why would God command Abraham to sacrifice Isaac? So I just recently began to listen to the entire audio recording of the Bible, and I've heard the New Testament of Jesus Christ to the crucifixion. And I do believe, yet I cannot wrap my head around this to proceed further. I can't believe the God of the Old Testament is Jesus Christ for some of the things that are recorded as being said and commanded by God. For instance, his story tells God tells them, if you take human life, so will yours be taken in the same manner. And he commands Abraham to sacrifice, kill his son. Now you can say it's a test, but then what of the people in recent times who say they were commanded by God to sacrifice their child? You can't say God wouldn't command such things unless you don't believe the Old Testament. Yet if you do, then it leaves behind the possibility of God being all-knowing. He knew Abraham wouldn't sacrifice Isaac, but then that's predestination, because Abraham could only ever not kill Isaac. You're over-convoluting this. Then there is no free will. And God creates people predestined for heaven and predestined for hell. That's not how this works. If he is all-knowing, then you can see both outcomes. If Abraham had killed Isaac, and if he didn't, then God wouldn't know which action would take until it was taken. Right, so the problem, what you're confusing is you're misunderstanding what God wanted. Now, you have to understand that he had Adam and Eve, yeah, and he gave them free will. He says, right, here's your garden. And he also, because they were perfect, he still gave them free will. And then Eve, tricked by the serpent, the snake, saw the fruit, ate the fruit. Adam saw that it was also tasty, so made the choice to also eat it, right? And it states further in the Bible that he made a choice. Now, Abraham. You have to remember that Abraham jumped the gun already on God once. How do we know this? Because God says to him, your wife is going to have a child for you, and your generation or your lineage is going to be as many as the stars and as many as the sand. Now, because this isn't happening as quick as what Abraham wants, he turns around and says, his wife says to him, my slave girl is younger than me. Perhaps it's an age issue, because fertility was very much worshipped in those days. I tell you what, you sleep with my slave so she can have the child, but we know the child is ours anyway. So he takes it into his own manner, right? Eventually Isaac is born. Now you have to understand what he's asking Isaac to do is prove that he's willing to trust the word of God. It's a proof thing. It's nothing to do with the sacrifice. And the sacrifice is because in some ways he's asking Abraham to return the gift that God gave him. It's like me giving you a gift and then me asking that you've really cherished and then me asking you to have that gift back, because we have to look at the circumstance of what's going on a godly level. We can't look at it on a mortal level. We have to look at it on a godly level. Why? Because in God's understanding, life and death are interchangeable like a light switch, right? And we have to understand this about God. Death for him is like a life switch. He can bring you into the world, he can take you out of the world. He has the authority and the right to do that. He doesn't do it willy-nilly to pleasure himself, because he's not cruel, right? He's not Satan, he's loving. So he tries to make you have a good life to earn your way to have a relationship with him, which we understand. Now, when he asks Abraham, Abraham jumps on his legs and goes, okay, that's what I'll do. Doesn't question it. Now, why is it you're not questioning that more than God asking the question? Because wouldn't you find it strange if you're a father that beloves your son, that you would, for some reason, not question God, saying, hey, can you sacrifice him for me, right? And this is what it's about. It's the fact Abraham already knew what God was asking of him, was to prove his faith and not really to sacrifice his son. And we further know this because when he reaches the mount, he turns around and says to his guards or people that are with him, the young men, he says to him, stay here, me and my son will return. He didn't say I will return, he said me and my son. So he already knew that both of them were going to return. Now, following this, when they're going up the mountain, he even says to his son, do not worry, God will provide what we need. So God isn't trying to sacrifice his son. So that takes the moral ambiguity out of it. He wouldn't have allowed his son to be sacrificed for him on that level. He wouldn't have done it. In some way, he would have intervened, whether it be for an angel, natural, whatever it is, we don't know. But he would have intervened in some way to make sure it doesn't happen, right? Because we know God intervenes with things. Now, in terms of predestination, the problem is God being all-knowing, all-seeing, doesn't mean he knows the choice that you will make. Oh, no, how can you say that? It's contradictory. No, it's not. So God knows that Abraham was 99% likely to say yes to go forward with it. But he's also got a 1% chance to not. And God can see all the outcomes, but he doesn't know the choice you'll make. And we know that because when Jesus sits down at the Last Supper and he says, the person who dips their bread first and eats and everything else will be the one to betray me, right? He doesn't know which of the 12. He ain't looking at Judas going, I'm watching you to do it. He doesn't know which of the 12 are going to betray him yet. He knew one of the apostles had to betray him. That's the predestination. But he didn't know which one. And he knew the way the cards were laying that one of them was going to do it, most likely Judas, but he still had to have the shadow of doubt. Same with Adam and Eve when he put them in the garden. He knew it was possible, very, very likely, one of them was going to eat the apple at some point. The serpent was going to interfere. But they also could have had the chance to speak to him first about it. They could have had the chance to remorse and everything else, but they chose not to. So God can see all the outcomes. It's very much like the Matrix. If you look at the Matrix, right, you have the architect. I believe he's called the architect. And he says the main problem with the Matrix was choice. And it's the fact you can have an infinite amount of choice that you could choose from all of them. It's like, how do I, as an algorithm, as a machine, calculate the choice you're going to pick to make everything coherently line up, to make the system seem believable and keep you all in here, right, and contained? And with God, it's the same thing, right? He can see that you're 99% likely or 99.9% recurring likely to do this. But through free will and knowledge of him, you can choose the 0.1%. And it wouldn't surprise me if by having a closer relationship with him and understanding that, it helps you shift that scale a bit. So you can start choosing more on a 5% or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking aloud. But that's the point. It's not about the predestination. It's about the free will is there. And he's trying to go to your heart. The Pharaoh is another good example. So he says to Moses, you're going to perform, basically you're going to perform more than 10 miracles, because the snake was also done, the staff of the snake. And he says to him, you're going to perform all these miracles in front of the Pharaoh, right, and his people. Yet his heart's going to remain hardened to me. And you can see the Pharaoh on the scales tipping. You can see him going, oh, well, okay, we'll take the men and the women then. But it says, oh, but we need to have the calves as well and everything else to go in the wild. And he goes, oh, maybe not then. Oh, fine, go. But then he changes his mind. And it says he later hardens his heart. So we know that even the Pharaoh was on the scales, because God had to give him the chance. Because if God knew all along he was never going to change, and he wouldn't have given him the chance altogether. He would have just said, okay, the Pharaoh ain't going to change. He ain't going to unharden his heart. So just take your people now. I'll sort it out. Just go to the Red Sea now. Don't worry about it. I'll get you equipped and everything else. And we'll do one thing to sort you out and be done. I'll just kill his son straight away, right? But he didn't. He gave them chances, myriad of chances, because he is fair, right? He has to be fair because otherwise he's a hypocrite. Now, the other thing you have to understand is, well, him killing people and this and that, like killing the firstborns and that in that scenario, means he's a bit of a hypocrite. But he's God. He has a certain level of authority. And like we said, his association with death is different. What is death to him? It is nothing. It's a transition. He can grab your soul and do anything with it. He can make it go to sleep. He can asunder it, reborn it, raise it, convert you into anything. He has no limitation. So you have to understand a God with no limitations like that. You have to change how he perceives certain mortal coils that we do and mortal struggles. His power is infinite. His power is absolutely infinite. So what we moan about and what we perceive in our logistical mind, to him is irrelevant. He's like, well, I can just move mountains. I can just create seas. I can just destroy your planet, rebuild it. I can build another one. I can reborn you over here. I can give you a renewed earth now. I can give it tomorrow. But he has the right to do that as a God. But he chooses not to himself because he is loving. And he wants to try and give us all a chance. So he's given us all a deal. And we have two choices. It's either know him and spend eternity with him because we want that, or we can choose not to know him and spend eternity without him. Pretty damn simple.